provided by Thomas Allgaier and Frennis, based on the most relevant posts on LinkedIn about future mobility and market evolution in CW 2526. Frennis is a B2B market research company working with enterprises to optimize their campaigns with account and executive insights far beyond AI. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a focused look at the world of next-gen vehicles and mobility. Basically, our mission is to pull out the top future mobility trends and, the key market evolution insights we're seeing. This is all coming directly from the most relevant LinkedIn posts from calendar weeks 25 and 26. Think of it as your shortcut to knowing what's really shaping the industry right now.
That's exactly it. This deep dive is all about cutting through that daily noise, getting straight to the core stuff. We've gone through a lot of updates to bring you the most actionable intelligence. We're focusing on the insights that genuinely matter for professionals like you in the mobility space.
Okay, great. Let's unpack this. Our first major theme, electrified mobility and evolving infrastructure. It's more than just getting electric vehicles out there, right? It's about the whole ecosystem.
Precisely. And that idea of the ecosystem, the infrastructure, it brings us straight into a big debate.
Yeah.
Are fully autonomous fleets actually viable? Antti Pasila, for instance, he had a pretty critical take on what he called Tesla's robotaxi fantasy.
Ah, okay. What was his angle?
Well, he pointed out a huge practical challenge, this mismatch between supply and demand. In a city like LA, you could have way too many robotaxis sitting idle during off-peak hours. But then, if owners use their cars during peak times, well, the whole economic model gets pretty shaky.
Right, so it's not the simple passive income dream some people might have.
Not quite. Pasila also hit on the real costs for owners, things like wear and tear, battery degradation, even the risk of, interior damage. His key point was that maybe a B2B fleet model, perhaps run by someone like Uber who already has the customers and operations down, that might actually be the more realistic way to make commercial robotaxis work.
That makes sense. Shifting the risk and leveraging existing networks, which I guess leads us to another crucial piece, public perception.
Oh, absolutely. Anna Wittstein-Scheigelberger shared some interesting analysis on the prejudices against e-cars, especially in Germany. Turns out a significant chunk, like 38% of people surveyed, still bought into at least one common myth. That's a real hurdle.
38%. Wow, that feels high now. What myths was she tackling?
The usual suspects. Claims about e-car fires, which are actually less frequent than with combustion engines, and the whole environmental impact argument. She pointed out there are over 70 studies refuting those negative impact claims. But her big takeaway was, well, she put it in all caps, experience, experience, experience.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Yeah. For her, a test drive does way more than any study. It just shows how vital getting hands-on still is to change minds.
Definitely. And it's not just the public. Organizations are wrestling with this too, internally.
Right. Michael Muller had some thoughts on modernizing company car policies. He argued against just sticking to rigid budgets. Instead, he's pushing for more dynamic approaches based on TCO, that's total cost of ownership, factoring in everything over the car's life.
Okay, TCO. Makes sense. Yeah, and he championed things like CO2-dependent incentives and using digital tools to help employees choose vehicles.
So it's about being smarter, more flexible, and aligning with bigger goals.
Exactly. Muller explained how this kind of shift really boosts employee satisfaction, gives companies tighter cost control, and crucially, helps hit those sustainability targets. Seems like a genuine win-win.
Sounds like it. And what about innovation in, say, charging and energy?
Some really cool collaboration happening there. Andrea Costa talked about the Aztec ACDH2 project. They're developing a modular, flexible hydrogen refueling station. What's neat is it's an EU-funded partnership. You've got HVR Energy, BMW Group involved with input from Thomas Hoffman, and Wolftank Group, a good model for getting things done together.
That kind of partnership does seem powerful. We also heard from Tom Stone, reporting from Movie 2025. He mentioned Alex Vasiliou from UNY, showcasing universal swappable batteries designed for urban mobility scooters, delivery vans, that sort of thing.
Swappable batteries, interesting.
Yeah. And sticking with batteries, Selena Mikozak from Lighten introduced a cheaper lithium-sulfur battery. Apparently, it's already viable for drones. That could be huge.
Lithium sulfur. Okay. And yeah, electrification isn't just cars and vans, is it? Micromobility is booming. Relina Mikova shared takeaways from Eurobike 2025. She was praising Raymond's e-bikes, like the lightweight new MA model for city use.
E-bikes are definitely changing cities.
Totally. And looking even further ahead, Louis L. was excited about personal eVTOLs.
Yeah.
Electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. He sees them transforming urban air mobility. Direct, emission-free, and saving loads of time.
Flying taxis. Still feels a bit sci-fi, but getting closer. And back on the ground, we are seeing real commitment to infrastructure. John Morris Minsteff gave an update on Newham in the UK. They're expanding EV charging massively, aiming for 3,000 charge points by 2030.
3,000, wow.
Yeah, partnering with companies like Believe and Uber shows serious intent.
Okay, so that sets the stage nicely for our second big theme, redefining urban mobility and public transport. This isn't just about, paving more roads. It's about rethinking how people actually move in cities.
Exactly. And right down at street level, digital tools are making a difference. Kalkidan Kasahun reviewed the 8TMA driver app in Addis Ababa. It digitizes parking payments, no more paper tickets, and tracks traffic penalties. She saw a big potential there for transparency, convenience.
Digitizing city services.
Yeah, and Claudia Kopetsky highlighted a team-up between Dusney and Goldbeck. They're pushing smart parking innovation using platforms and data.
It all feeds into this bigger question of how we use urban space, doesn't it? Phil Deluckery made a really strong point. He said something like 50% of public space in European cities is still for cars, even though cars might only be, 12% of trips?
50%? That's staggering.
Isn't it? He's calling for a shift, thinking of mobility as this intermodal, inclusive, intelligent system. Basically, mobility as a service taking off properly. He also slagged Ameson's white paper on the 5 big challenges for cities by 2050: climate resilience, governance, equity, tech innovation, and industrial sovereignty. Big stuff.
Huge challenges. And it really underlines why active and micromobility are becoming so central. Henning Schroeder shared his personal battle with São Paulo traffic. He's convinced bikes, especially e-bikes and cargo bikes, are game changers for megacities.
You can see why.
And Fabiano Lima's survey backed this up. Gen Z wants to cycle more, but they need safer lanes and decent parking. It's pretty basic, really.
And we're getting solid data on this now. Sarah Stace shared findings from a nature study. Get this. Protected bike lanes boost bike commuting by 4.3 times.
4.3 times. That's proof right there.
Absolutely. And Dario Baribi reported bikes have actually overtaken cars in central London now. Partly thanks to dockless e-bikes like Lime. Their usage quadrupled in 2 years.
Wow, bikes overtaking cars. That's a milestone.
It really is. Marco T. Brommelstroet's study also showed the health benefits from switching from car to bike easily outweigh the risks. And Anna Hill at Eurobike also stressed accessible, bike-friendly infrastructure.
It definitely feels like a tide is turning in urban planning. Beyond bikes, what about public transport innovations?
Some interesting things there, too. Hans-Peter Kleebinder reported on Paris launching its first urban cable car, the Cable C1.
A cable car, like in the mountains.
Sort of, but for the city. It's designed to connect underserved southern suburbs, link up with the metro, an 18-minute trip over 4.5 kilometers.
Creative solution.
And thinking globally, Linghai loved the Netherlands' nationwide open-loop transit system. Just tap your regular bank card, seamless travel.
That sounds incredibly convenient.
Right. And Nupur Gupta reported on progress in Indonesia's mass transit project. World Bank support for electric buses, better infrastructure in cities like Kigali, too. So real progress internationally.
Good to see. What about shared mobility? Car sharing, ride hailing?
Yeah, that's still evolving. Dr. Vivian Robert Ronald was wondering if car sharing is that missing piece for sustainable transport. Nicholas Verstraete showcased Clause 2U, a car-sharing platform in West Flanders, Belgium. No subscription fees, various vehicles including EVs. The idea is it replaces multiple private cars.
No subscription fee is appealing.
Definitely lowers the barrier. Sailikith Yadav Sierra also did a deep dive on Uber and Lyft's impact, looking at their business models. And Orji Jenna explored improving motorbike ride-hailing.
So lots happening in shared services. How does this all connect back to wider city planning?
Good question. Franco Jaregi Fung stressed using land use and property development to actually fund mass transit. He pointed to places like Hong Kong and Jakarta doing this.
Using development value to pay for transport. Smart.
Very. And Simone D'Antonio brought up something often missed: planning for the night. Thinking about mobility to support the nighttime economy, improve safety, cut emissions after dark.
That's a fascinating angle. Night mobility.
Isn't it? And John Morris Minsteff, back in Newham, detailed their broader policies. Emissions-based parking charges, low-traffic neighborhoods, greening their own council fleets. It's a whole package.
A comprehensive approach.
Yeah. And T.T. Shah shared insights from Middle East Rail 2025 about designing mobility intentionally to make cities more inclusive, more vibrant.
It really feels like we're moving towards a more systemic view.
Exactly.
Oh.
Cormac Michael Rabbick's piece on Ireland's transport debate captured it well. It's not just roads versus rail. It's about choosing to re-platform how the whole country moves towards seamless shared electric options.
Replatforming mobility, I like that.
Me too. And Bram Sues from the SMAE Summer Academy reinforced key ideas.
Oh.
Deal with seasonality and shared mobility, ensure it's equitable, build effective mobility hubs. Robert Knight also reminded us not to forget history learned from past transport systems for the future.
Okay, so a massive shift in urban thinking, which leads us nicely to our final theme, the real cutting edge, autonomous vehicles and advanced air mobility.
Right, the future is arriving fast here. Let's kick off with the robotaxi race heating up. Martin Salomon and Christopher Chico both flagged CATL, making a big play. They're jumping into robotaxis via a joint venture with HelloBike and Ant Group.
CATL, the battery giant.
The very same. They're investing over $400 million, focusing on level 4 autonomy for commercial use in Shanghai. It's a major diversification beyond just batteries. Puts them right up there with Tesla and Baidu.
Interesting move. And then there's advanced air mobility. You mentioned eVTOLs earlier.
And it's happening. Mahmoud Abdullah and Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed celebrated Dubai's first successful test flight of the Joby Aviation aerial taxi, all electric.
Joby in Dubai. Okay.
They're planning a launch in 2026, aiming to slash city travel times by up to 80%. Dubai is really positioning itself as a global test bed.
80% reduction, that's transformative if they pull it off.
Absolutely. Paul Poschulik offered some useful analysis on segmenting this eVTOL market. He looked at regulations, like the FAA's Part 135 for commercial ops, and passenger capacity, differentiating air taxis from larger air shuttles, crucial for figuring out the economics.
Yeah, the business models need to work.
Exactly, and Borja Blanc Fedez de Royaba noted Saudi Arabia seems to be leaning towards EASA's certification model for eVTOLs, seeing it as more scalable than the FAA's.
Regulatory choices shaping the market.
Definitely. Mustafa Abdelghani was also really impressed by the drone tech he saw at Mobility Live Middle East.
So the tech is advancing rapidly, but how does this autonomy integrate smoothly? You mentioned potential downsides earlier.
Right, Russell King had a very balanced take. Robotaxis get the headlines, but regular traffic often gets worse in the meantime. He argued for a walk-and-chew-gum approach. Fix today's transport problems while preparing for AVs. And crucially, without the right rules, AVs could actually worsen congestion if everyone just uses private robot cars instead of public transport.
The cautionary note there, need good policy.
It's essential. Daniel Niederberger looked at how autonomy could scale across different sectors, not just taxis, but logistics trucks, autonomous buses. What does that mean for companies' strategic roadmaps?
It impacts everything eventually. And AI's role is broader than just driving, isn't it?
Oh, much broader. Bhavik Chopra explained how tools like Llama 2 and RG, that's retrieval augmented generation, basically helping AI pull specific verified info, are boosting efficiency in urban mobility operations.
Oh, so.
They're spotting anomalies 15 minutes faster, getting crews mobilized 27% quicker. Real operational gains.
Impressive.
And Robert Little shared how Google's AI tools are having a big impact. They've helped avoid roughly 2.7 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions this year just by optimizing traffic lights in 20 cities.
Wow. AI optimizing traffic flow globally.
Yeah, plus expanding low-emission zone alerts and bike lane data. Tangible benefits.
So where are we seeing real-world AV deployment taking shape?
Well, Olaf Kalash highlighted Switzerland's SCCL project. It's a level 4 capable city liner bus. Shows how autonomous tech is poised to change local public transport soon.
Level 4 buses. Okay.
And Tim Asperge has reported on a new European coalition, Artis Automated Road Transport Services, formed in Paris. Their big push. The urgent need to scale up shared autonomous mobility to avoid that nightmare scenario of cities clogged with private AVs.
Promoting shared AVs over private ones makes sense.
And Mizikin Kosiolu presented PhD research at Euro 2025 on optimizing shared mobility systems too. So the academic work is happening alongside the commercial push.
What a whirlwind. This last couple of weeks really show a dynamic landscape.
Totally. Tom Stone's MVE 2025 highlights covered everything from AV policy to battery chemistry. Reinhard Pascher at Eurobike saw tech blending seamlessly with sensation.
And Joris Spig shared Dieteren's vision for a whole, inclusive, zero-emission mobility ecosystem.
Right. While Highly Tuned focused on global collaboration for mobility data standards, super important groundwork. And Diana Proteasa Nicola shared insights from a Vienna event full of startups building that sustainable, accessible future. It's all happening.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also, check out our other editions on electrification and battery technology, next-gen vehicle intelligence, and commercial fleet insights.
You know, what's really striking is just how fast this stuff is moving from theory to reality. The future of mobility is kind of becoming the present. I think the big question for everyone in this space, for you listening, is how do we make sure these incredible technologies actually benefit everyone, benefit our cities, and don't just add new layers of complexity?
That is a great question to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the latest from next-gen vehicles and mobility. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your deep dives so you never miss an episode.